All right.
Yes, ma'am. You can be seated. Counsel and the jurors, Chrisman is still on the stand. Still on the roll, now beginning cross-examination.
Sir, one of the things that you told us on direct examination is that you were the father of four, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, actually, that's not the whole truth, is it?
Yes, it is.
Well, you have two of your own, don't you?
Yes, sir.
And the other two actually were your wives with some other man, right?
Yes, sir.
So when you told us that you have four children, you meant to imply that they were your biological children, didn't you?
No.
Well, you didn't tell us that there was a difference, did you?
I'm telling you now there's...
Well, I'm asking you now. That's why you're telling us, though, right?
Okay.
You didn't tell us before, did you?
Well, they are my kids. They don't know their father.
Well, I'm not saying whether or not they know or not. One of the things that you said was that you have four kids, right? They're not all four your biological kids, right?
No, they're not.
And so that's not the full truth, is it, when you say that they're your kids, right?
It is. They're my kids. They're not my biological children. No, I have two.
And you implied to us when you took the stand that, yes, you have four kids, implying that they were your biological kids. You didn't make the distinction, did you?
I never implied that they were. No, I did not make a distinction.
No, you did not make the distinction, correct?
No, sir, I did not.
That's because you wanted some sympathy, right?
No,
Well, you're a father who's raising these four kids, right?
I am.
And so you did that for a reason, right? And that reason was for sympathy, so that you could be looked upon more of a person who has a larger family, right?
No, I just try not to make any distinction between my stepchildren and my biological children.
But the truth is, there is a distinction, right?
No, I try to raise them just the same as they do with my son.
You keep saying that, sir, but the bottom line is that's not the full truth, that they are not your biological kids, correct?
Actually, Judge asked that.
Sir, the other thing that you told us about is that, in terms of the dogs, that, well, the taser's not really effective against dogs, right?
Correct.
And, however, you were trained using this taser on the city of Phoenix, weren't you?
Yes, sir.
And, in fact, you received a training back on June 1 of 2010, right?
Yeah, I can't remember an exact date.
It's a 2-hour class, right?
Again, I don't recall specifically.
That's only, 4 months before this happened, right? June is 4 months before October of 2010, right?
Yes, it is.
Let me show you an item, see if that refreshes your recollection.
Okay.
Take a look at it, Exhibit 385. We're still looking at it. Let me know. That is your training record, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Try to have it back. Look at the admission exhibit 385.
Objection to the exhibit, Judge. I do object to the highlighting.
I haven't seen it, so I don't just, is there a way we can clean it?
You just make a copy of it and then.
Right. The unhighlighted version of 385 is admitted.
The highlighted portion, though, sir, refers to your taser recertification, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
And that's in June of 2010, right?
Yes.
And you were given 2 hours, weren't you?
Yes.
And during that time, the issue of whether or not the taser was effective against animals, dogs, was discussed, wasn't it?
I don't recall that ever being discussed.
Well, let me show you one of the slides that was shown to you. Maybe see if that will refresh your recollection.
Okay.
In light of the testimony, 385 as is immediately,
Including the highlighter.
including the highlight.
Go ahead and take a look at
Can I see the exhibit?
Yes.
385. Got your name at the top of this, right?
Yes.
It includes Taser X26 recertification, right?
Yes.
And it's got the date on it, right?
Yes.
And it includes that it was for 2 hours, right?
Yes.
Take a look at exhibit 386. You recognize this?
C 386.
Yes, we want.
Check. This is a 15-point model.
Okay, well, then show it to him first.
This issue was discussed, wasn't it?
I don't recall that. I don't even recall the class.
You don't even recall the class?
No, sir.
So it could be then, if you don't recall the class, that this issue involving animals could have been discussed, right?
You could be.
And it could have also been discussed that the taser is an option for dealing with aggressive animals, right?
I believe that's what it says.
I'm not asking you that's what it says. You're saying that you don't remember anything about the class, right?
I don't remember the class.
And so it could be that the issue of animals was discussed.
Objection calls for speculation.
Well, sir, if you don't remember what was discussed, you have no way of refuting that, in fact, the issue that animals was discussed ever existed. You can't refute that, right?
Objection. Counsel is testifying.
Well, it's speculation system.
Sir, do you have a problem with your memory?
No more than anybody else.
Well, sir, how do you know how everybody else thinks?
Suppose I don't.
You don't. And in fact, this was in June of 2010 when you took this class, right? You do remember taking it, right?
I only know it from looking at that training record. That was 3 years ago. I don't remember taking the class.
Well, something very significant happened 6 months after that, didn't it?
Yes, 6 months later.
Right? Didn't it?
Yes.
And you got no problem telling us everything that happened back in October of 2010, right?
It's a very significant emotional situation for me.
The answer is yes. You don't have any problem recalling that, right?
No.
But you do have a problem recalling anything before that, right?
Not anything. I don't specifically recall the class. I'm sorry.
If the class had been presented and the issue of the animals were discussed, is that something that you could dispute as you sit here today?
Objection. Again calls for speculation. Ask the answer.
Sir, one of the things that you told us was that you gloved up. Do you remember telling us that?
Yes, sir.
And one of the reasons that you told us that you gloved up was that you needed to get near the person, right?
I needed to check vitals.
Right. Which means you needed to get near him, right?
Yes, sir.
And the person that you needed to get near is an exhibit 94, right?
Yes.
So we have seen before that there was blood virtually everywhere, right?
Yes.
There was blood, and if we take a look at exhibit 35, there was blood on the door, right?
Yes.
And before the storm hit, there was blood right in here, right?
Yes.
There was blood on the carpet, right? See that?
Yes.
There was blood to this individual's right here, correct?
I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
There was blood right on or near the bicycle, wasn't there?
I can't see it from this picture.
I'm not asking you if you can see it from the picture. Do you have problems remembering what you saw back then? That's where the blood was.
I didn't really take any notation of where all the blood was.
Well, exhibit number 40, do you have any reason to dispute that there was blood in that area?
No, I do not.
So there was virtually blood everywhere, and in fact, there was even blood near the mirror, right?
Yes.
And you walked over, and you put your gloves on, and this was shortly after you killed this individual, right?
Yes, sir.
And this was what? Within 30 seconds of shooting him, right?
I don't really have a good grasp on the time frame. I don't know how long it took to put the trailer.
Well, let's do it this way. You shot him, right?
Yes, sir, I
He
did.
went down, right?
Yes, sir.
He went down on the chair, right?
Yes.
He was bleeding everywhere, right?
He was bleeding, yes.
And you were standing right about where I'm standing, right? When you shot him and he went down, you're standing right about where I'm standing, right?
Yes, sir.
And he went down right in front of you, right?
Yes.
There was blood that got on, as we've seen, on the bicycle, right?
Yes.
And then there was blood all over the door, which would have been right about here, right? The door was open, right? You see this little line that you put here? See that line?
I didn't put the line there.
Well, you see the line that's here, right?
No, I cannot.
Well, why don't you step down and take a look at it and see if you see the line?
Which one?
This one right here.
Yes, sir.
Have a seat. That represents the door, right?
Yes, sir.
And we've seen that the door has some blood on it, right?
Yes, sir.
And the door's kind of high, and the blood is kind of high up on the door, right?
Yes.
And you were standing right about here, right after you shot him, right?
Yes.
And you stood there, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
You took your hand and you took your gun out, right?
I had my gun out. I didn't take my gun out.
Right? You still had your gun out there. And you told us that you did that to make sure that he wasn't a danger to you, right?
Yes, sir.
So it wasn't a situation where you shot and then you put it right away. Oh, put the gun away, right?
No, it wasn't.
Held it right there while the person was down there on the chair or however it was, right?
Yes.
And he was bleeding throughout this whole time, right?
Yes.
And he had already bled on the mirror, right?
Yes.
And he was bleeding on the door, right?
He had already bled on the door.
He had already bled on the door right after you shot him, right?
Yes, sir.
So he was kind of spewing blood out that way, right?
Yes, sir.
And the blood was coming in your direction as you're standing here, right?
I don't remember specifically seeing the blood coming at me.
I'm not asking you if you remember the blood coming at you. You do remember that he had the blood coming from him, right?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, we see the blood here, 94. You see all that blood, right?
Yes.
And we do see the bicycle there, right? Is that the front or the back wheel?
That's the back wheel.
And as you're standing there in this area right here, the bicycle is between you and him, right?
Yes, sir.
You had to check his vitals, right? Or you decided to check his vitals, correct?
Yes, sir.
That meant you had to, after a period of time when he wasn't moving anymore, when he had stopped bleeding, you stepped over to check his vitals, right?
No, I stepped over to clear the trailer.
Well,
I cleared the trailer before I checked his vitals.
all right, so you stood here for a period of time while he was there and he was down, right?
Yes.
Then you went to check the trailer, right?
Yes.
And you decided to go check the trailer when you perceived that he was no longer a danger to you, right?
I don't know if that was necessarily my perception.
Well, if he was a danger to you, then why are you walking away this way when this guy can be a danger to you? He can shoot you in the back, right?
It's possible.
Sure.
But
So you didn't care that he was going to shoot you in the back?
I still had to clear the trailer. I asked Officer Virgil, we need to cuff him. We need to work him.
I understand that you want to talk about Officer Virgil. I want to talk about what your mental state was at that time. When you said that you put the gun away, the first thing you said is, I'm going to check the trailer, right?
I didn't put my gun away to go check the trailer.
You still had it in your
I have
head.
my gun out. Yes, sir.
Right.
That's how we clear trailers.
At the time that you went to clear the trailer, you walked over the bicycle, right?
Yes, sir.
Had to get on over it, right?
Yes.
So you walk on over the bicycle, and as the kickstand was up, right?
I don't recall.
Well, let's put it down the way it was. Bicycle, something like this, right? Right? Something like that, right?
Something like that.
The individual that you have just shot and killed is right there, right?
Yes.
You no longer perceive him to be a threat, right?
No.
I thought just now you said that you did perceive him to be a threat. Which one is it?
Well, again, what I said was I don't recall my actual perception at the time, but I did go to clear the trailer.
If you went to clear the trailer, wouldn't that mean that he was no longer in your mind's eye? That's right to you.
Yes.
And that meant that you had to walk over this. Did you walk this way, or did you walk through it? How did you walk through it?
I don't recall specifically.
But you walked. There's a situation where this was toward near a chair, right?
No, it was kind of more by the coffee table.
Well, the front of it was near that box where the globe is, wasn't it? Do you remember where the globe was when we discussed that issue? Well, let's take a look at Exhibit 38. Does that show you where the front of it is?
Yes, sir.
There's the box right there, right?
Yes.
There's the front of the wheel, right?
Yes.
Actually, it's like this. Right? So it appears to be, right?
Actually, lights turned the wrong way. And the photo verse goes on.
We'll turn it the other way then. Like that, right? That's what it looks like, sort of, right?
Sort of. Actually, it was just a little further away from your door over there. I can't see the door.
Something like that, right? That's what we're seeing.
Something like that, yes.
The body's right there in front of you, right?
On the crank side of the bicycle. Yes.
The body's right here, correct?
Yes, sir.
And when you decide to clear the trailer, you have your gun out, right?
Yes.
You don't know if you went this way or if you went over the bicycle, right?
No, I don't specifically remember.
And you walked this way down the hallway, right?
I stepped over the bicycle. I don't specifically remember which way. I think I went between the couch and the table.
If you went between the couch and the table, then there was no need for you to step over the bicycle. You could have just gone this way, right?
No, I still would have had to step over the handlebars of the bicycle or a portion of the bicycle regardless.
So you stepped over something like this.
Again, I don't recall specifically how I stepped over the bicycle.
And you then headed down the hallway, right?
Yes, sir.
And you made it all the way down to the first bedroom on the left, right?
Yes.
And while you're there, you're not worried about the individual that's on the ground, about whether or not he's going to come hit you or anything, right?
No.
You just said that when you started to do this and you started to go away, you weren't sure if he was a threat or not. When did he stop being a threat in your mind? When you got to the hallway, when you got halfway there, when did he stop becoming a threat in your mind?
I don't know. I suppose it would have to be when I saw the location of the bullet marks.
And you saw those when you came back, right?
No, I saw those when he was laying on the ground.
So then he was no longer a threat as soon as you shot him, right?
I guess.
Well, no, I don't want you to guess. Is that when you perceived him to not be a threat when you hit him dead center on?
I already said I don't specifically recall my perception. I moved on to clear the trailer. I felt I had a task to complete. I had already made an attempt at getting him placed in handcuffs. It was.
So your perception then is a little bit fuzzy about what happened that afternoon, right? Yes or no? Is it fuzzy as to what happened then?
No.
Well, you just told us that you can't really remember what your perception was, right?
Yes.
So that means if you can't remember what your perception was, that means it was fuzzy, your recollection of what your perception was, right?
I just don't specifically remember my perception of whether or not he was a threat at that point.
If he would have been a threat, aren't you worried about your safety when you're out there?
Yes.
That's paramount for you, right?
Yes.
And so you're worried about it every minute that you're out there, right? Especially since this is a domestic violence case, right?
Yes, sir.
And so, yet you, at this point, even though you're worried about your safety, you're worried about the individual that has done, or you claim has done certain things, you still turn your back on it.
Yes.
Walk down the hallway, and you clear the first room to your left, right?
Yes, sir.
And when you clear the first room to your left, you say it's dark, right?
It was.
You can't see in there, right?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, there's a situation that there has to be a flashlight so it can be used later to go in there, right?
Yes, sir.
So the point is, sir, as you stood out here, involved in this killing for this individual, you don't know what's inside that room, do you?
No, sir.
Because even when you walked on over there to that room, you yanked the curtain down, you still couldn't see anything in there, right?
No, I did not.
You couldn't see the shotgun shells, right?
No, I did not.
You couldn't see the bullets, right?
No, sir.
That did not enter into your mind when you were out there as to whether or not you were apprehensive or concerned for your safety. Did it?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
You were not concerned for your safety due to those shotgun shells or those bullets, were you?
No, I'm not. I couldn't see them.
Right? And even though Mr. Bartell indicated that perhaps you could see in the dark, that sort of thing, you really couldn't see in that darkness of that room, could you?
No.
And you couldn't see through the wall when you were having this issue with Mr. Rodriguez, correct?
No.
Then you went into the other room. Did you go into the bathroom?
No, I didn't.
You went down to the other room, right?
Yes, sir.
You saw that dog there, right?
Yes, sir.
All of that took about, what, 5-10 seconds?
Don't really know how long.
And then you came back. When you came back, you were still by yourself there, right?
No. No, because Officer Bergia had cleared the bathroom and came out. We came out into the living room.
So you both came out at the same time then, right?
I suppose, yeah.
Well, no, not you suppose. I want you gave us
I mean, one person in front of the other. I mean, I don't know specifically who was in front and who was in the back when we came out.
So he was inside that trailer with you, clearing the trailer, right?
Yes.
He wasn't outside in the bushes, was he?
No.
He was in there with you, going back and seeing what was going on, right?
Yes.
And then when you came back, he walked out the front door, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
And you remained behind, right?
Yes.
At that time, when you remained behind, you were alone, right?
Yes.
And when you were there alone, sir, you weren't thinking about that arrow that you had seen that was shown to you previously, were you?
No.
And the reason you weren't thinking about that arrow is because you'd never even seen it until these proceedings were initiated, right?
That's true.
That arrow was not a threat to you, was it?
Well, it could have been, but I don't recall seeing it.
From your perception as to your fear factor, sir, it couldn't have been part of your fear factor because you didn't see the arrow, right?
No.
So it couldn't have caused you any fear or apprehension, right?
I suppose not.
Well, no, I don't want you to suppose. I want you to tell me. If you didn't see it, how could it be that it could cause you fear?
I don't know. I'm not saying that it caused me fear.
Well, but it was brought up here. You saw it, right? And
That's
when
right.
they showed you the photograph, you said that's a certain type of arrow, right?
It did.
But it really has nothing to do with what you were thinking that day, does it?
No.
And in fact, the same thing with the bow. Do you remember the bow where that was?
I didn't see that. I don't recall seeing it.
And in fact, even today, you don't even know what corner of the house it was, do you?
Oh, I did.
Where was it?
It was in the northeast corner underneath the barn.
And you didn't see it, though, when this issue with Mr. Rodriguez was going on, did you?
No, I don't recall seeing it.
And so, again, in terms of whether or not you were frightened or whether or not you were concerned, that was not part of the lexicon of your mind. You weren't thinking about it, right?
No, I don't believe it was.
No, that didn't cause you any fear, did it? And as you were standing there, and you're coming back from clearing, to the right, you see a gun belt, or what one of the witnesses indicated may have been a gun belt. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
You were paying attention to that either, were you?
No.
And so, again, those things really didn't have anything to do in your mind as to whether or not you were concerned for your safety at that point during this incident, right?
No.
So, sir, you then come back, and as you come back, you go over to Mr. Rodriguez, right?
Come back from...
Checking that.
Yes,
Clear.
sir. Yes, I did.
And you didn't have a flashlight, right?
No, I did not.
But you do have gloves, right?
Yes.
They're called nitro, right?
Yeah, latex, nitrile, later.
And they're blue in color, though, aren't they?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, one of the things that you did is you reached into your pocket and you put them on, right?
I did.
And you tell us that the reason you did that was that so you could check on Mr. Rodriguez, right?
Yes.
And you went to check Mr. Rodriguez this way. How did you go check him?
As I came from the, do you have a photo?
Well, no, we have the sketch right here that they put down. We're walking this way. How did you check him out?
As I came from the hallway, I walked up to him, gloved up.
Okay.
I believe I checked his left wrist first, and then his neck.
And then what?
His neck.
So, if we take a look at Exhibit 94, check that wrist there. I'm
No.
sorry, the left wrist. This
This
would
is
be
the-
this one, right?
Yes, sir.
And then you check his neck, right?
Yes, sir.
And then you walked over the bicycle, right?
Yes.
And you did get some blood on your gloves, didn't you?
Yes.
And then you walked outside, right?
Yes.
And you walked outside with your gloves, right?
Yes.
And at the time that you were in there, after you were checking him, you were in there by yourself, right?
Yes.
Officer Virgil was no longer there, right?
No.
He had already left, right?
Yes.
Officer Rudy had the right, right?
When I was inside checking the vitals, no, he had not.
Officer Marky Cannon had the right yet, right?
No, sir.
Dominic Barrios had the right. You were by yourself, right?
Yes.
And this was after you had stood in front of him and shot him and watched him go down, right?
Yes, sir.
When he went down, There was blood that was coming from his mouth, wasn't there?
When he was on the ground, yes, I remember seeing blood coming out of his
And he
mouth.
wasn't spewing it everywhere, was he?
It was gurgling, almost like just expelling it. It was popping with the breaths.
And there was blood coming from right here, correct?
Yes, sir.
And this is when he was standing there, right?
I'm sorry?
When he was standing there was blood also coming from his chest, wasn't there?
Again, I don't recall when I fired the shots, I don't recall seeing the blood coming out like shooting out at him. I remember seeing him when he was laying on the chair there, when he was on the ground. I remember seeing the blood come out, and there was blood coming out of his chest. It was just flowing down.
But it would have come out a certain distance because of the blood configuration we have on the bike, right?
Yes, sir.
And specifically what we have on the mirror, right?
Yes.
And besides that, we also have the door that we've taken a look at, which is in exhibit number 38. And he's spewing blood at such a point that it gets the whole length of the door, right?
Yes.
Well, sir, if you are standing where you say that you are standing, and you don't bleed from that area until he is down, then why is it that you don't get any blood all over the top? You don't get any blood on your right? Why is that if you're standing right there where you say you're standing?
Okay. I don't know. I didn't check for blood. I don't know anything about the lab tests other than what they got up here and said.
I would agree, though, that if you're standing where you say that you were standing, and the blood is coming this way such that it's hitting the door, and you said you were standing right about here, and the blood is hitting the door, it would have had to hit you, right?
Okay, I don't think I said I was standing right about there. I was standing in that area.
Well, you were standing in this area, right?
I'm sorry, can you do that again?
Right here.
No, I didn't say that.
How about right here?
No, I believe I was a little bit further up.
Right here.
Because I remember my shoulder hitting the door.
So it's right here then.
Right up in there, yes.
If you're standing there then, and if you use the seat as an indication, exhibit number 40, you see there's blood there too. You see that?
Where?
Right there. You agree that's blood, don't you?
I do agree that's blood, but I disagree that that's where I was standing. I didn't say that.
You were standing in this area and yet you got no blood on it, right?
I never said that I got no blood on me.
Well, you only got blood on the left side, right?
I don't know. I don't remember what the lab said about the blood.
Well, they said that you had 4 spots on your left pant leg and 5 on your shoe. Do you remember that?
That sounds right.
And so if you're standing here, would you agree then that if the blood's coming at you, you've at least got it on part of your body, maybe the waist, maybe the right leg, maybe the top?
If you look at the photo of the
Yes or
blood, no,
You don't agree with that?
I don't agree with that.
The blood source never moved after it went down, right? In other words, Mr. Rodriguez, when he went down, right?
Yes, sir.
In fact, though, you were so far away from him when you shot him that when he was spewing all this blood, whatever blood he was spewing, he never got on you because he wasn't close enough to you, right?
It did get on me.
He got on you on the foot, right?
On the pant leg.
On the hand leg on the left side. But he didn't get up here, right?
Yeah, again, I don't know that.
It didn't get on your gun as you were outstretched, did it?
My gun wasn't outstretched. My gun was right here.
All right, the gun was near your face, right? But your arm, right?
Yes.
And your hands were outstretched a little bit, right?
Yes.
And when you did that, you shot him, you didn't get any blood on your chest area, you didn't get any blood on your waist area, because he was at some distance too far for that blood that was spewing all the way to the door to get to you, right?
I'm sorry, did you say that again?
Well, you say that you were standing right here, right?
No, I did not say that.
How about up there?
No.
Where were you standing at?
I told you that I was standing up. I remember the door, hitting the door with my left shoulder as I backed up.
So that would be right around here.
Yes, sir, in that area.
If you're standing back there, then, sir, when you fired, right?
Yes.
We have the width of the bike, right? However that may be, however big that may be, right? And the way you're talking about it, it's like it's right over here, right? So that your left shoulder's like this, right?
The door's over here.
All right, the door's here. So you're standing right here, right? There's the door. Want me to get closer to the door?
Well, I told you my left shoulder was up against the door.
Okay, how about right here?
Where the door is.
That's the door, right? We agree that's the door.
Okay.
Well, no, not okay. When Mr. Gann was talking to you about it, you agree that this is the door, right?
Yes.
So you're standing right here, like this, right?
Yes.
The bike is between you, isn't it?
Yes.
And you say he's holding on to it, right? When you shot him.
Yes.
If he's holding on to it, sir, how is it that the sifting pattern shows that he had his hand up like that? Was he lifting it with one hand? Is that what he was doing?
No. I don't know how that is. I don't know.
You don't know.
No, sir.
The gloves, you then touched this individual, and you did get blood on the gloves, right?
Yes, sir.
You didn't get any blood on the bottom of your shoes, right?
I'd say it'd be kind of hard to not get blood on the bottom of my shoes.
But you believe that you did, even though the tests indicate otherwise, right?
They didn't test the bottom of my shoes.
You're saying that, were you here when Heather Fairchild testified?
Yeah, she did a visual inspection of the sole of my shoe.
Were you here when Farrell Fitzgerald testified?
Yes.
And you still maintain that you had blood on the bottom of your shoes?
I maintain that it would be hard to get out of the trailer without getting blood on the bottom of your shoes.
I'm just asking you, do you maintain that you did not, that you did or did not have blood on the bottom of your shoes?
Mr. Martinez, it rained pretty hard. In fact, it rained so hard out there that day there were garbage cans and ice chests floating down the roadway.
So the answer is you believe you have blood on the bottom of your shoes, correct?
I do.
And even though there were these trash cans that were floating down the road and there was all this water, it was such that it didn't brush away or take away the blood on your left shoe, correct? Didn't do that, right?
I don't know that it did or didn't.
Well, you were here when those two people testified, right?
Yes.
So the other thing is that at that point, when you were there, you were able to see the taser that was outside, right?
Yes, sir.
And that taser was Officer Regillo. That wasn't your taser, right?
No, it's not.
And in fact, your taser, you put back in the left side of your belt, right?
Yes, sir.
And you were not carrying on your belt another cartridge, right?
No, I was not.
So when Ron Bartell implied that you carried it on your belt, he was wrong, right?
Implied, I'm sorry?
Ron Bartell, you know who he is?
Yeah, I remember him.
He's the person who testified and said, no, it's supposed to be carried on your belt, and he somehow implied that that's where you carried it. You didn't carry it on your belt, right?
No, I did not.
You left it somewhere else, right?
Yes, it was in my duty gear in the car.
You left it somewhere else that was not accessible to you, right?
Yes.
But you did have your taser with you, right?
Yes, sir.
In terms of this taser, though, or in terms of the gloves, though, you did see the other taser that was outside, and we've seen photographs of it. It was right about here, right? You want to look at the photograph?
I think that's about right.
Okay. And that had blood on it too, did it?
I don't know.
You don't know?
The taser?
Yes. Officer Regillo's taser had blood on it, didn't it?
Again, I don't know.
If it did have blood on it, you claim that it was never inside the trailer when this was going on, right?
Objection calls for speculation. Objection
Sorry.
states yes.
Who's going to answer the same question?
You claim he was outside of the trailer when all of this was going on, didn't you?
I said I didn't know where he was.
So if you don't know where he was, it could be that he was inside of the trailer then.
I would think that I would have saw him.
So if you didn't see him inside the trailer when this was going on, then he was outside of the trailer, right?
I would assume. that he'd be outside. I didn't see him specifically, but I don't recall seeing him in a trailer at all.
Right. Well, you're over here and you shoot your taser, you don't see him, right?
No, sir.
When you are going to do the grab it in the hands.
Well, I was over where when I shot the taser?
Over here. Is this where you indicated you shot the taser?
It was at the edge of the tile area. I think it was around the edge of the tile.
All right. When you shot the taser in this area, you didn't see him, right?
No, I did not.
When you went to grab on Mr. Rodriguez, you didn't see Officer Virgilio, right?
Which time?
Anytime. Either time.
I did see him when I pepper sprayed the suspect.
Right. That's different than grabbing. I'm asking you about grabbing. When you went to grab him, you didn't see him, right?
No.
But you then, after you went to grab him, that's when you used the OC spray, right?
Yes.
And that was in this area here, where I'm standing, right?
Yes.
And that's when you did see Officer Virgilio, correct?
Yes.
And that, according to you, was the last time you saw him, right?
Until after the shooting took place.
You didn't see him use the taser at all, right?
No, sir.
In fact, whatever shot he took, you don't know where he took the shot from, right?
No.
But he actually was the one that struck the suspect, wasn't he?
Yes.
You didn't, did you?
I don't believe so.
No, you only had one prong, didn't you?
I don't know. I can't tell you whether I only had one prong or not. Just because one wasn't found didn't mean I didn't have one.
Okay. You certainly had enough wire, 22 feet 9 inches, that was still inside the cartridge of the taser, wasn't there?
Yes, sir.
And you've heard evidence about how, well, in your training, these tasers are supposed to have 21-foot leads or wires, right?
Yeah, I don't think they ever tell you exactly how long the leads are. The cartridges are for 21-foot use.
Right, they're for 21-foot use. So 22 feet 9 inches is beyond the 21-foot use, right?
Yes, sir.
And that was fully still wrapped up in the cartridge, right?
Yes.
If it's wrapped up in the cartridge, it means that whatever happened, it was not effective in assisting you that day, was it?
No, sir.
So in terms of the taser, we also know that there was one right up against the wall involving a white board. Do you remember that?
Yes.
That's your other prong, isn't it?
I don't know.
Well, you were watching what was going on, right?
I was pretty overwhelmed with the stress and adrenaline.
I understand that you had stress and adrenaline, but your eyesight was still functioning, right?
I didn't see the taser probes come out.
I'm just saying, though, your eyesight, you didn't have any problem seeing, did you?
No.
You're not telling us that the OC spray had anything to do with it, right?
No, sir.
So you were able to see and sight the individual, right?
Yes.
And that's why you decided to shoot him, right?
Yes, sir.
Because you thought you were taken down, right?
Yes.
And you know that there's one that hit against the board up against the wall, right?
Yes.
That's your prong, isn't it?
Again, I don't know.
Sir, before you went on duty that day, one of the things that happened is that you did not check your taser, did you?
You talking about
The spark test.
test firing it?
Yes, the spark test.
If the timestamp on it says that I didn't, then I didn't.
And isn't that something that you're supposed to do at the start of every shift?
Yes.
And in fact, you didn't do that some other shifts before then, right?
That's possible.
Right. And that's something that's a safety precaution so that you know whether or not the battery is below 20%, right?
No, it's not necessarily just because of the battery. If they're not test fired occasionally, they don't fire properly right away. There's a hesitation. I don't know all the specifics about it.
But you wouldn't have known that going out there because you were neglectful in testing that taser before you went on duty as required by your training, right?
True.
The other thing as required by your training is you're required to have 2 of the cartridges with you when you go into a situation, aren't you?
Supposed to. I don't remember operations. I don't remember policy specifically, but I did not have 2 cartridges when I went to that door.
And if you would have had a second cartridge, you could have used it if you would have had it, but you didn't have it, right?
It could have been a possibility. It could have been an option.
Sure, it could have. And in fact, you could have tased the dog, right?
I wouldn't have tasted the dog. I don't recall that part of my training. I recall it demonstrations that it was not effective.
You don't. All you remember is that you think it wasn't effective. That's what you remember, right?
Yes.
So the other taser that's involved here, the Virgil taser that's outside, it actually struck this individual here, as we see in exhibit number 94, didn't it?
The taser did have an effect on him. He did get rigid and fall backwards.
Right. And it wasn't when you fired at him, it was when the other taser was fired at him, right?
Correct.
And you have training. Basically, you sight the individual at the top, at the bottom, and you fire, right?
Yes.
And these tasers are not like some sort of ballistic missile that can take turns and do that sort of thing, right? They go straight for what you aim it for, right?
I don't know the accuracy of their flight path. I believe Mr. Bartel said that because they're so light and they're not aerodynamic, they don't necessarily always fly straight and true by the bullet.
Do you believe that there was a wind that was blowing, an ill wind that was blowing through this trailer that day?
No.
And it would have affected this taser, right?
Yeah, no.
If it would have, you would have used your taser, right? If you thought there was too much wind in there, you wouldn't have used your taser, right?
I may still have used it.
Even though you didn't think you could get an accurate shot at it because of the wind.
I thought I could get an accurate shot at the distance I was at.
Because there was no wind there, was there?
No.
And it was in October, there wasn't even an air conditioner running, was there?
I don't recall.
So, generally speaking, if you aim at something with that taser, it flies in that general direction, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
It doesn't take any 90-degree turns, does it? In your experience, the tasers prongs do not take 90-degree turns, do they?
No, in my experience, they do not.
And in fact, this taser prong was fired by Officer Virgil, wasn't it?
Don't know.
Wasn't you, though, right?
If that has a lead on it that's leading out to Virgilio's taser, then that was fired by Virgilio's taser. I didn't see the probes hit it.
Well, didn't you say that you actually touched the leads or touched the wire as you were walking out? Didn't you indicate that? At any point when you were involved with this individual, didn't you indicate to us that you touched the wires?
No.
No. Never touched them at all in any way, shape, or fashion, the wires that lead to this problem.
No.
And sir, the taser then that's involved here, you do agree that Officer Virgil fired that taser, right?
The one that was outside the door?
Yeah. You never saw him fire it, though, right? According to you, right?
No, I did not.
And at the time that he fired it, you don't know where he was, right?
No.
And according to you, he was outside, right?
That's where I heard the noise come from.
You indicated to us that you heard the noise and you heard it come from outside, right?
Yes, sir.
But you didn't look to see where Officer Virgil was standing, did you?
No.
So your focus here, he could have been standing right next to you, and you wouldn't know, right?
I heard the pop and the taser sound come from outside the door.
So you believe that it came from outside the door, then, right?
Yes, sir.
It didn't come from, for example, 10 feet to the east of the door, did it?
I don't know.
Well, you heard the sound. How far away was it?
I don't know.
Well, you've taken training with tasers. You know that the aphids that come out do go in a forward direction, don't they?
Yes, sir.
They don't go backwards, do they?
I suppose if the wind catches them, they'll go backwards.
Again, did you feel any wind at that particular point when this was going on?
I was inside the trailer. I was pretty involved in the situation.
How about when you went outside? Did you feel any wind at that point immediately when you were out?
I don't specifically recall notating any wind.
No. And in fact, sir, the taser that was outside, you picked it up when it was in this area here, aluminum, and you threw it out, didn't you?
Absolutely not.
You were the only one there that had gloves on, right?
Yes.
You were the only one there that had gloves with blood on, right?
I don't know. After fire went in there, I don't know who else had gloves on besides me, but I did put gloves on.
Well, You weren't there when fire was there, right?
I was not.
And did you notice whether or not the taser was inside or outside?
It was outside the trailer when I walked out.
Right, so when fire arrived, in terms of how the taser got moved, they had nothing to do with it, from your perspective, correct?
I don't think the taser ever got moved.
That's what you're saying, but it did have blood on it, right?
I don't know.
Well, if it did have blood on it, it could be one of two things. Dr. Joe was inside, right? That could be one way it got blood on it, right? Close speculation. Right?
Could be.
Or the other one could be, because you're the one with the nitro gloves that have blood on it, you're the one that moved it, right?
Could also be all the water inside the trailer, wash blood outside.
So you believe that whatever water came in, instead of washing the taser down, wash the blood outside so they got on the taser.
Well,
That's what you believe?
say that again. I'm sorry.
Well, no, take a look at exhibit number 35. See the breach there?
Yes, sir.
You remember how high that was?
Yes.
How high was it?
I believe it was about 4 inches above the patio.
And so you're saying that you believe that there was enough water, more than 4 inches of water there, to wash out, right?
More than 4 inches of water.
Right, so that it could wash out and then get on the taser, right?
I don't think it requires 4 inches of water for water to flow out the door, but
If you were walking into this trailer, sir, from the outside, you would mean your left leg would be the one that would be exposed, right?
I'm sorry. Say the
As
question.
you walk in, the part of your anatomy that's exposed, if we're talking about the leg, would be the left leg, right?
If you walk inside the
No,
trailer.
if you walk in. Right.
If I walked inside the trailer,
Right.
I guess it depends on which foot goes in first.
Well, let's assume the right one goes in first. That's furthest away from the individual, isn't it? That's further away from the body if your right leg goes in first, right?
Yes, sir.
And then the left one goes in, it's closer, right?
Yes.
You remember how you left the trailer? You had your gun on like this when you walked out this way? Or did you walk out with this position?
I believe I just walked out forward. I had my gun holstered.
One of the things that you told us, sir, was that you indicated to us that, well, you responded to this priority 2 call, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you responded to this priority 2 call after Sergeant Brazil, right?
Yes, after he answered the call.
Right. And one of the things that you told us was that on the way there, you made some inquiry about the individual, right?
Yes, sir.
The information that you were provided, first of all, only indicated that this individual threw something from his, well, let's read it. It's 282. This is all of the information that you received. Right? Yell at complainant, right? See that?
Yes.
Threw something from his room,
Yes.
hit the wall, damaged the wall, complainant calling for neighbors, lot 50, right?
Yes.
Unknown drinking or drugs, 2 dogs in mobile home lot number 51, right?
Yes.
Nothing about weapons whatsoever there, is it?
No, I believe somewhere on there it says.
Yes or no? Is there anything about weapons there?
I'm just trying to answer your question.
Do you see that anywhere there? What?
It says NKW, no known weapons.
Right. So, in other words, it's telling you that there are, from what they've been able to receive, there are no weapons there, right?
There are no known weapons.
Right. And one of the things that you told us was that when you arrived, you press a button, right?
Yes, sir.
And it says here that you arrived at 12:25, right?
Yes.
And 424A, that's Mr. Virgil, correct? Officer
Yes.
Virgil, right?
Yes.
It indicates that he arrived there at 12:22, right?
Yes.
And what you're saying is, no, that's not the way it happened, right?
Yes.
You're saying that you arrived there before him, right?
Yes.
And you're saying that you were there waiting, if you were in a waiting mode when he pulled up, right?
I was waiting for the map of the trailer park to pull up on my computer.
And that's a waiting mode, right? You were waiting.
Yes.
You weren't waiting for him, right?
I was waiting for the map.
Right. But you were in a waiting mode, right?
Yes.
And while you're waiting for this map to come up, that's when he arrives, right?
Yes.
3 minutes later, right?
I don't remember how long it took him to show up.
So, but he arrived after 4:25. I'm sorry, 12:25, right?
At some point after I
Right.
got.
Because you arrived there at 12:25, right?
That's what it says.
Well, no, not what it says. You were there and you pushed a button, right?
Yes.
And you told us before that, in your experience, as soon as you either pull it in or you push the button, it gets locked in without you having anything to do with it, right?
Yes.
Is there any reason for you to believe that this 12:25 is an error by the Phoenix Police Department? Any reason to believe that as you sit here today?
No, sir.
So you did arrive there, as far as you know, at 12:25, and Mr. Virgil, or Officer Virgil arrived after you, right?
Yes.
Whatever it may have been, right?
Yes.
And while you're there, before you go into this mobile home park, one of the things that you know is that you're waiting for this map to come up, right?
Yes.
And this is the map of the trailer park, right?
Yes.
This is the map that's going to tell you where trailer number 50 is, right?
Yes.
Because you're not going to trailer number 51, right?
No.
And in fact, this is, it's done by satellite, isn't it?
The map.
Yeah.
I think the map of that one. I don't think that one was a satellite map, but one of the.
You had a map, right?
Yes.
It had trailer numbers on it, and it had street names on it, didn't it?
I don't recall whether or not it had street names, but it had the space numbers.
But it had streets on it. In other words, it had, for example, an area that was clearly a street, right?
Yes.
And then you were able to locate number 50, weren't you?
Yes.
And what you tell us is that before you started driving, you were able to locate number 50, right?
Yes.
And then you didn't need, at that point, Officer Virgillo to do anything for you, right?
No.
Because, in fact, he was on his way, you were on your way, and he was behind you, right?
He had pulled up when the map came up on my computer.
Right. And when he pulled up, the two of you looked at each other and presumably acknowledged each other, right?
Yes.
And you took off first, didn't you?
Yes.
And you started following this map to get to this place, right?
Yes.
However, sir, you say he arrived after you, but if you take a look at, for example, exhibit number 1, the only thing is a photograph, right?
Yes, sir.
You agree that's how the cars were parked, right?
Yes.
If you're in front of him and you're both going to the same location, he got there before you, did he?
Yes, he did.
Even though you say that he was lying or making it up as to when he actually arrived there, right?
I didn't say that. I said that I was at the entry of the trailer park pulling up the map. He pulled up next to me. The map came up. I located the trailer, told him where it was at. I drove. As we got to the road, this road that the cars are parked on, I turned right instead of left.
And 282, what you're saying is that the 12:22 time for him is not accurate, though, right?
No, it's not accurate.
Even though, as we take a look at exhibit number 1, which you say does show the way the cars were parked,
Yes.
if we're trying to determine who got there first and who may have pushed their button that they got there first, this does show us he did get there first, didn't he?
Objection. This states the testimony.
In front of the trailer, he pulled up in front of the trailer first. He also testified that
Yes
he was
or
at
no?
the trailer park when he got there.
Yes or no?
Yes,
Isn't
sir.
it true that this shows that he got there before you?
In front of the trailer, yes, it does.
And according to you, he was already out of his car when you got out of your car, right?
Yes.
So it means that you were sometime behind him, right?
A few footsteps.
Well, did you say that he was already behind the car when you pulled up? Did you just tell us that on direct examination?
Yes.
So that means he was already out of his car, had already got his tablet, right?
Yes.
He'd already obtained his victim's rights card, right?
Yes.
He'd already been out of the car and closed it, right?
Yes.
And he was actually standing there waiting for you, right?
No.
Well, he was standing in the back of his car, right?
He was walking.
He was walking behind the back of his car,
Yes,
right?
he was walking around the back of his car.
The trailer was actually number 50, which is over here, right?
Yes.
He was walking this way or that way?
He was walking towards the passenger side, towards the trailer.
He was walking that way, and then you pulled up, right?
When I pulled up, he was behind the Tahoe.
And because you wanted to stay up with him, you hurried up and got out of your car, right?
Yes.
And that he's the reason, actually, why you weren't prepared with your taser, right?
Well, I just got out of my car, went to catch up to him. No, I didn't grab the taser. He's not the reason.
Well, you seem to have implied that it was because he was there and in a hurry that you weren't able to adequately prepare yourself with the taser, right?
I was trying to expedite my approach to catch up to him. I didn't grab my taser cartridge. That's me.
If you're trying to catch up to him, that means he's in front of you, right?
Yes.
And you went over and you spoke with, along with Officer Virgilio, you spoke with 2 individuals, not just one, right?
Yes.
And you're saying that you want to catch up to him. That means you have to hurry your steps to catch up to him, right?
A little bit, yes.
Why do you have to hurry your gait to catch up to him? There's no danger there, is there, when he's going to talk to them, is there?
Well, we don't know that.
Oh, so you think that these ladies that he's going to talk to are very dangerous? That's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying we don't know that. We don't know what's in the trailer or who's in the trailer. We have an idea that we have a complainant from a domestic violence, but we're approaching the unknown.
And they're outside, though, right? Aren't they?
No.
They're inside. So
Yes.
he goes and gets to the door to the trailer first, right?
Yes.
But you begin to start the questioning, don't you?
Yes, I asked some questions.
Right. No, I'm asking, isn't it true that you were the person who began to ask the questions, right?
I don't know.
And there were 2 people there, right?
Yes.
There was a Hispanic female and an American and a white female, correct?
Yes.
And they were inside the trailer when you were talking to them, right?
Yes.
And you didn't see a need to look inside the trailer anywhere, right?
No.
You didn't see a danger there, right?
No.
And you told us that, well, when I spoke with Ms. Fernandez, she was upset and crying, right?
Yes, sir.
This woman was upset and crying after she made that 911 call, right?
Yes.
You heard the 911 call, didn't you?
Yes, when it was played in here.
Pardon?
Yes, when it was played in here in the courtroom.
In your opinion, was she upset in that 911 call?
Yes.
And so that's how you define upset, how she is on that 911 call, right?
She was crying.
So she was crying on the 911 call according to you.
It sounded like it to me, yes.
All right, so she's crying on the 911 call according to you. What else is she doing on that 911 call that indicates to you, besides crying, that she was upset?
Don't know. Would you want to play it?
No, I don't want to play it. You're the one that heard it, didn't you?
I did.
You were the one that was out there with her on that day. We don't have a recording of that, do we?
No,
We have to rely on your memory, don't we?
I suppose.
Well, you're the one that testified to it, right, today, right?
Yes. Yes.
And you remember what happened when you spoke with her, right?
Yes.
And she started to talk to you about what was going on, and she was upset, right?
Yes.
And you were rude to her, weren't you?
No, I don't recall being rude to her.
Do you remember the other woman being there? There was another woman there, right?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, you made a comment to her to something to the effect, I can't understand you. Are you speaking to me in English? Didn't you say that to her?
No, sir, I don't recall saying anything like that.
You don't recall it, right? You did have a conversation with her, though, right?
Yes.
And you were the one that was in charge at that point, right?
Not necessarily, no.
Well, you were the one that was asking the questions, right?
It doesn't put me in charge.
Well, you're the person that they're communicating with foremost, right?
No.
Are you saying that Officer Virgilio is involved in asking questions too?
Yes, sir.
So you weren't the one that was asking most of the questions?
No, I asked a few questions. I wasn't the one asking most of them.
And once you were done with that, sir, you and Officer Virgilio go to the trailer, right?
Yes, sir.
And according to you, Officer Virgilio is somewhere behind you, right?
Yes.
You're in front, right?
On our way to the trailer,
Yes.
I think we're kind of side by side. I asked him about the front and the back door.
When you get to the trailer door, you're in front, right?
I'm at the door. Yes.
First, before he is, right?
I don't know if I'm there before him,
Well,
but I remember
you
being
can't.
at the door.
Are you saying that you both arrived at the same time? Is that what you're saying?
The first time, yes.
So when you get there, you both are right there at the door at the same time, right?
Yes.
And even though this is a domestic violence situation, right? You said that.
Yes.
These are really unpredictable. Priority 2 call. How much time do you have to respond?
The priority 2 is. It's been more than 3 years since I did any police work. I think it's 5 minutes.
So you think, in your view, you have 5 minutes to respond to a priority 2 call, right?
Yes, sir.
And in this case, you responded at 12:22, is that right? Or when did you first respond to that?
When was I dispatched the call?
Right, 12:21, right?
Let's see. It's 12:10.
So 12:10, right?
Yeah, I believe that's the dispatch time.
And you got there at what time?
12:22.
12:22, is that either 424A or 421?
I'm sorry, 12:25. I'm sorry, my mistake.
All right, so 12:10 to 12:25, right? See that?
Yes.
That's 15 minutes, right?
Yes.
So you're saying that you need to make sure that you get there in a certain period of time, and you believe it's 5 minutes. You violated that minute, didn't you?
Yes.
And one of the things that you said that was that, well, the consequence of that is that, well, we have to write paperwork and somebody calls it to your attention, right?
Boss gets a sheet of paper forwarded down the chain of command. You get it. He hands it to you, fill out, and it's just a notation on what to do. So on you.
Well, with regard to a priority 1, that's the one that's a hot call, right?
Yes, sir.
You have to get there immediately, right?
Yes.
What you're saying is that a priority 2, the only difference between that is maybe 1 or 2 minutes, right? You have priority 1 or priority 2.
No, what I'm saying is I don't recall specifically the response time frames. Again, it's been more than 3 years since I've had to deal with this.
But you say you believe it's 5 minutes, right? That's what you told me, right?
Yes, about 5 minutes around.
Speaking of 5 minutes, it's good to repeat your question. Let's take a 3-minute break. Ladies and gentlemen, just kind of a short break. Court was going to break. So as you guys go back to the break. I'm not asking them to defeat the purpose, we're just taking it away.